While the airborne, marines and paras get much of the military limelight, there's one group of elite warriors that conduct their business shrouded in secrecy, operating from the shadows. Today, we'll be looking at the Submarine Service, otherwise known as the Silent Service. Today, we'll be discovering the origin of the Submariner Award, known in the British Navy as the Dolphins, the training process crew members undertake to receive those qualifications, and two post-World War II conflicts where submarines played a vital role. Each conflict was known for a significant surface vessel to be sunk and also a submarine to be lost. Many of the viewers here, I'm sure, will know all about one of the conflicts, the Falklands War, but I'm sure you may be surprised about what the second war was. Submarines are versatile military instruments, suitable for intelligence gathering as well as sinking enemy ships and for launching strikes against targets on land. Within the submarine is a mysterious sealed world of work, drills, sleep and more work in a cramped, sterile and sunless environment. Being a submariner is one of the most challenging and demanding roles in the military. In order to earn their dolphins, recruits must go through one of the most comprehensive training programs in the Navy. From the Royal Navy's perspective, submariners would traditionally have to go through submarine school in addition to their general and specialised training. The submarine school curriculum would be split into a dry period of training and a wet period of training. Dry training would be classroom and scenario training alongside, and wet would be when the recruit would be taken to sea to learn some of those principles. Whilst at sea conducting his training, the recruit, or non-qual as he would be termed by the crewmates, would be denied privileges given to the other submariners on board. This would include things like relaxing in the mess to watch videos. Unlike the surface fleet, the trainee would have to be intimately knowledgeable about all areas of the submarine from a firefighting and basic operator perspective, and have to complete various specialised task books. Whilst at sea conducting his training, the recruit may have also been mentored by a more experienced sailor known as a sea daddy. From 1954 until 2012, Royal Navy recruits would have to conduct escape tank training simulating an escape from a sunken sub on the seabed. The Submarine Escape Training Tank, known as SET, is a deep water tank, often around 100 feet or 30 metres deep, and was used to train submariners in escape techniques. In the UK, this was located in Portsmouth, England. Recruits would have to escape from an airlocked compartment which floods and then continually breathe out until reaching the surface without panicking or breathing in, which could injure them even fatally due to the pressure. The origin of Submariner Awards, often referred to as dolphins or fish, dates back to the early 20th century and was adopted by the US Navy in 1924. The original US design included a bow view of a submarine, with bow planes rigged for diving, flanked by dolphins in a horizontal position. This design has remained largely unchanged and is still used today. For the British Navy, the badge or award introduced in the 1950s features two dolphins flanking an anchor with a crown above. This design symbolises the submariner's role and the maritime heritage of the Royal Navy. Other navies adopted the idea quickly, with sharks being used by the Swedish Navy, red stars by the Soviets, and a sword by the French. With total submariner training lasting about an extra 4 or 5 months compared to the general service, the submariner then would be awarded his dolphins in a ceremony. This would involve having to catch the dolphin badge or award in his teeth after downing a shot of rum. From then on, he would be a submariner, earning extra pay and elite status. Submarines would be split into nuclear and non-nuclear or diesel-electric types. Diesel subs, much smaller and with limited endurance, would be used for coastal protection and to guard against threats in areas such as the Baltic or the Mediterranean. Nuclear subs, having far longer ranges and essentially unlimited fuel supply, would themselves be split into two types: SSBNs, known as bombers or boomers, and SSN fast attack subs, known as hunter-killers. The SSBNs, operated by the US, the Soviet Union, the UK and France during the Cold War, would carry nuclear missiles and conduct deterrent patrols such as in the North Atlantic or Pacific. Patrolling for long periods up to 3 months without surfacing, these subs would avoid contact and detection, rarely transmitting. Crews would not be able to communicate with their loved ones at home and only received 1 or 2 short messages a week like a text message. Family tragedies would be kept from the crewmen until the end of the patrol as not to affect morale. Attack subs would conduct intelligence gathering operations, frequently going up north to the Barents Sea and the Arctic Circle, and eavesdropping on Soviet communications such as in military exercises. The Soviets would do likewise. These missions would be fraught with danger, with collisions and other dangers present. During the Cold War period, the United States lost 2 nuclear submarines, the USS Thresher and the USS Scorpion. The Soviets lost at least 5. Now for the first of our 2 conflicts, the Indo-Pakistan War of 1971. This conflict was a brief yet significant war occurring between India and Pakistan in December 1971. It was primarily triggered by the Bangladesh Liberation War, where East Pakistan, nowadays known as Bangladesh, sought independence from West Pakistan, now known as Pakistan. From a naval perspective, India had 2 clear strategic objectives for this war. 1. Blockade the ports of East Pakistan in the Bay of Bengal, preventing any resupply from West Pakistan. And 2. Target the main Pakistani naval base at Karachi, on the Arabian Sea. For Pakistan, the objectives were to protect Karachi by targeting Indian naval assets operating out of the West Indian port of Bombay, now known as Mumbai, and attempt to prevent the blockade on East Pakistan. Being the Cold War, watching on were both the US 7th Fleet and 2 Soviet battle groups. In late November, Pakistan naval ship, or PNS Hangor, or Shark, sailed from its base with a load of torpedoes to patrol outside Bombay harbour and gather intelligence. Hangor repeatedly detected a large Indian naval force leaving the harbour to conduct a raid on Karachi, but were unable to fire their torpedoes. A later radio signal warning Pakistani Naval Command was intercepted by the Indians, who then dispatched 2 frigates, the Kukri and the Kirpan, to locate the sub. Around the same time, an internal fault on the submarine forced the captain of the Hangor to surface his vessel to conduct essential repairs. This was the worst possible timing. Knowing the risks, the Pakistani commander then innovatively covered his hull in lighting in order to pretend the submarine was a fishing vessel. Amazingly, an Indian patrol aircraft that was patrolling the area looking for submarines spotted the vessel but discounted it and flew away. While the Indian hunters were still searching for the intruding Pakistani sub, the Hangor later ambushed the 2 ships, firing a homing torpedo at Kirpan, only to see it miss or fail to explode. However, the action of firing the torpedoes at the 2 destroyers exposed Hangor's presence. One Indian ship, Kukri, moved in to attack, but Hangor fired a second torpedo which hit the Kukri amidships, detonating its oil tanks and sinking it within minutes. Once hit, the Indian captain of the Kukri, Mahendra Nal Mullah, organised the abandoned ship. He then handed his own life raft to a sailor in need and chose to go down with the ship rather than saving his own life. He was posthumously awarded India's 2nd highest military honour, the Mahavir Chakra. Up until this point, the INS Kukri is the only ship lost by the Indian Navy in the post-independence period. 18 officers and 176 other sailors were killed. This was the first warship sunk in action by a submarine since World War II. Kirpan then attempted to depth charge the Hangor, which fired yet another torpedo at the frigate. The torpedo missed but allowed the submarine to escape. The attack allegedly led to the Indian Navy cancelling a further raid on Karachi for fear of another submarine attack. Hangor received the highest number of operational gallantry awards given to a single warship of the Pakistani Navy. Awarded were 4 Sitara-e-Jurats, or Star of Courage, 6 Anga-e-Jurats, or Medals of Courage, 14 Swords of Honour, loosely equivalent to a mention in dispatches. The Star of Courage and the Medals of Courage would have been loosely equivalent of a military cross or military medal in British terminology. In the Bay of Bengal theatre, the Pakistani Navy dispatched PNS Ghazi, a long-distance diesel submarine that was sent to threaten the Indian force led by the carrier INS Vikrant that was blockading the ports in East Pakistan, preventing resupply or reinforcements. Ghazi was tasked with sinking the Vikrant. Hearing about the dispatch of the submarine, reportedly Indian naval intelligence laid a trap to sink the Ghazi by giving fake reports about the aircraft carrier's location. This led the Ghazi to believe that the carrier was operating in the vicinity of Visakhapatnam port, and subsequently Ghazi began laying mines outside the port. With the location of the Ghazi roughly known, the Indian Navy then dispatched a destroyer, INS Rajput, to counter the threat. The story then gets a bit murky. There are two versions given by each navy for the loss of the Ghazi. The Pakistanis believe that the sub went down in an accident whilst deploying the mines outside the port. However, the Indians claim their destroyer, the INS Rajput, successfully depth-charged the submarine. Either way, it was a significant blow for the Pakistani Navy and led to the Indian blockade of East Pakistan continuing. The war ended for both sides when peace was signed on the 16th of December. Finally, number 2, the Falklands War. The Falklands War was a 10-week conflict in 1982 between Argentina and Great Britain. Argentina claimed the Falkland Islands as her own, calling them the Malvinas, and invaded a force in April. The Argentine government sent a large naval force to occupy the Falkland Islands, and as part of that occupied the island of South Georgia. The British, in response, sent a large task force from the United Kingdom to retake the islands. After a mission dropping off supplies in South Georgia on the 25th of April, the Argentinian submarine Santa Fe was detected by a British helicopter, which was then part of an arriving British force to retake the island. The helicopter dropped depth charges on the vessel, causing significant damage which prevented the submarine from diving. Multiple subsequent helicopter attacks then occurred on the Santa Fe, including strafing and a torpedo attack which failed to detonate. Missiles fired by the helicopters also passed through the fin of the sub, which was made of fiberglass. Under constant fire, the submarine attempted to return to South Georgia, fending off air attacks with a heavy machine gun on the conning tower. Miraculously, the damaged submarine managed to reach a pier in the harbour on the island and, under fire, evacuated the submarine. Once ashore, Santa Fe's crew and the Argentinian garrison at South Georgia, still under attack, attempted to fire their rifles, machine guns and a Bantam anti-tank missile at the British aircraft, which missed. The British aircraft then decided to end the attack and retreated to their ships. The Argentinian crew then abandoned the listing submarine at the pier. The Santa Fe was later scuttled and captured by the British when South Georgia was finally retaken. Although there were no fatalities, several Argentine crew members had been wounded in the fighting. The sinking of the Argentinian ship General Belgrano occurred on the 2nd of May 1982. Argentinian forces had deployed two battle groups, one under a carrier and the other headed by the cruiser Belgrano, to prevent the main British task force from reaching the Falkland Islands. The British nuclear-powered submarine HMS Conqueror detected, stalked and then torpedoed the Argentinian cruiser Belgrano. HMS Conqueror fired 3 Mark 8 torpedoes, 2 of which struck the Belgrano. These torpedoes were World War II era weapons, but known for their reliability and effectiveness. These were unlike the modern Mark 24 Tigerfish torpedoes at the time, which were considered unreliable by the crew of the Conqueror. The torpedoes caused massive damage. One hit the bow, near ripping it off, and the other struck aft in the mess decks, killing around 275 men during a watch change. These explosions caused catastrophic flooding and explosions within several departments of the ship. The Belgrano sank within 45 minutes of the attack, leading to an overall loss of 323 Argentinian sailors. This incident was significant as it marked a major escalation in the conflict and demonstrated the reach and effectiveness of British naval power. The sinking remains a controversial topic due to various arguments about the attack occurring outside an exclusion zone, which is beyond the scope of this video. Although Britain did retake the Falklands, the Royal Navy lost 5 ships as well as other transport vessels. All of them were sunk due to aerial attacks. HMS Conqueror returned to Britain displaying the pirate flag, a traditional success sign of submariners, who in the early days of this new warfare were labelled as ungentlemanly pirates. The medal itself? The obverse is a crowned profile of Queen Elizabeth II, and the reverse is a laurel wreath below the arms of the Falkland Islands with South Atlantic Medal inscribed around the top. There are no clasps, but instead is a rosette denoting service in the combat zone. The medal is made of cupronickel, not silver. The ribbon is watered silk blue, white, green, white and blue. Before we sign off, here are some more interesting anecdotes or facts about submariners. Up until the last 10-15 years or so, the submarine service was traditionally a male-only environment for the majority of navies. On a higher pay scale than most of the armed forces and with an insular esprit de corps, submariners would refer to the general service sailors on the surface as skimmers. Submariners would have a saying, "There are 2 types of vessels at sea, submarines and targets." For weeks at a time, submariners would work in relentless shift cycles, 6 hours on, 6 hours off. often conducting what was known as hot bunking, or sharing a bed with a colleague on an opposite shift. With a shortage of water, submariners would also be ordered to have 2 or 3 minute showers. Anything longer was called a Hollywood. It would be interesting to hear the accounts of submariners in the comments, if any viewers are or have been one. I wonder if other navies have similar traditions, catching the award in their teeth. Maybe the Germans use schnapps, or the Indians use arak rum. Be quite interesting to know. Anyway, I hope you found some value from this, and I'll see you in the next one.